Hey, what's up, cats and kittens, and shout out to all my Cerebralites. It is me, the Cerebral Diva, and I'm back with another episode of RealiTEA, and that's TEA because I give it to you scalding hot. So grab your cups, grab your saucers, gather around, and let's all partake in this libation of RealiTEA. But before you go another further, do yourself a favor, and while you're at it, please do me a solid. Take a second, hit that subscribe button, and once you've done that, take another second to hit that tiny little bell so you can turn on your notifications, and that way you'll be kept in the loop. Okay, people, so we're going to talk about the Real Housewives of Atlanta, Season 10, Episode 10, and that's 10-10 for those of you who are keeping count. And believe it or not, this is my first review of the Real Housewives of Atlanta this entire season, and this is probably one of my favorite. I'm not going to even say probably. This is my favorite reality TV show. And I've been watching pretty much every show except for Atlanta. For whatever reason, I've just been having a really hard time engaging in the show this season. But I forced myself to sit down and watch every single episode over this past weekend. And I'm glad I did, because there has been some juicy stuff happening that, I'm not going to even rehash that. So we're not going to go over episodes 1 through 9, because chances are you've already seen that, and there's no need for me to go over that. So if you haven't seen it, do what I did. Go back and binge watch and catch up to us here at episode 10. So anyhow, this episode was really interesting because Kandi is one of my favorites on the Real Housewives of Atlanta, right? And this episode, I saw Kandi sort of flexing her Mama Joyce tendencies. So Cynthia is dating this new guy, and I believe his name is Will, and everyone thinks the guy is a little suspect. And I'm inclined to sort of agree with everyone else that there's something about this guy that's just a little insincere. He's too nice. He's too sweet. He's too romantic. It's almost like he's reading out of a playbook. Like nothing that he does seems like it's authentic. It really seems like he's been watching reality TV shows and gearing his sort of dating tactics towards the things that he's seen on TV. Sending a car, leaving a rose in a car. Like, this is stuff that you see on The Bachelor. People in real life, for the most part, don't really do those things. But I'll admit, as a girl, when I see him do them, it sort of gives me butterflies. And I'm like, oh, it's really sweet. But at the same time that I think it's sweet, I also think it's a little contrived. So Cynthia's dating this guy, and he's sending up red flags for everyone. In particular, he's sending up red flags for Kandi. So Kandi, who sort of has her ear to the street in Atlanta, decided to do a little research and figure out what's going on with this guy. And after doing some digging, a la Mama Joyce, she came back to Cynthia. And this is one of the things I did not like. So Will, who Cynthia is dating, he set up his date for he and Cynthia and whomever she wanted to invite. So she invited a couple people, but Kandi and Todd happened to be the only couple that were free. So they showed up on the date. So they're on the boat, and, they're sort of grilling the guy and talking to the guy. And out of nowhere, Kandi just, I'm like, Kandi was really channeling Mama Joyce during this episode. Kandi starts going in on the guy, well, I heard that you were on the Steve Harvey show looking for love. I heard that there was another show, a pilot that you did, that it was about dating and looking for love. And Will sort of answered the questions. Well, I guess he didn't really answer the questions, in my opinion. He more so deflected the questions. But he didn't really didn't really break a sweat when she was asking the questions. And the thing that I thought was a little uncomfortable is that if you're my friend and you have this information about someone that I'm dating, don't wait until we're actually on a date and then ambush me with the information. Pull me aside and be like, girl, come here, let me tell you something. Whisper in my ear and give me a heads up so I know what's going on. Or at least give me a chance to ask him what's going on. But Cynthia is so demure and docile that I think that to Kandi's credit, maybe she thought that if she had told Cynthia doesn't really know how to sort of finagle the situation in the way that Kandi would. So Kandi went in, did her digging, but now it looks like Kandi is really sort of, she's on the right track, if you will, as it relates to Will. Because finally, we heard all season that Eva Pickford was going to be joining the cast. And I've been waiting for this because I happen to be a huge Eva fan. I just love her. I think she's absolutely beautiful. I love her attitude, her disposition. So I'm excited to see what she brings to the show. And so they gave us a mid-season trailer. And in the mid-season trailer, we see that this, my apologies, you guys. In this mid-season trailer, we see that the love affair between Cynthia and Will is going to have a few bumps in the road. I'm not sure whether or not they'll weather those bumps, But anyhow, one of the major bump in the road that they're going to have to endure is going to be Eva. Eva the Diva is coming to Rec Shop, Hurricane Eva. So apparently Eva has a lot of information about this guy that Cynthia's been dating, and she's going to put a bug in Cynthia's ear and let her know exactly what's happening with Will. And this is why I think that it's especially critical for women who are single women dating to take your time. My mother always told me what looks good to you may not be good for you. And I think that that adage or that proverb is something that Cynthia could definitely find value in. So having said that, we're going to move on from Cynthia and Will because that story is sort of evolving. And I want to talk about Kenya. Now, I have been a huge Kenya Moore fan forever. I think that Kenya is beautiful. I think that she's intelligent. For the most part, I think that she's misunderstood. Or should I say, I think that she was misunderstood. And let me digress just for a moment here. This episode really centered around the dating lives of the women. Sheree, Cynthia, and Kenya. Well, Kenya is no longer dating, but she's married. So Kenya's husband, who everyone is dying to meet and seems to be an obsession for everyone on the cast, and Kenya, in my opinion, is doing the absolute correct thing by not involving her husband in this. And between you and I really don't see Kenya being on this show very much longer. When you look at her disposition has changed a lot. You know, Kenya used to be very carefree. It was hard for things to bother her. You guys, I'm sorry that my phone's going off. I super apologize. Let me turn these alerts off here. Give me just 1 second. Okay, I just turned the alerts off, so we won't be having those interruptions anymore. So I think Kenya's doing the right thing by not bringing her husband onto the show. I think that at this point, the show has done all it can do for Kenya. Kenya needs to take the brand that she's built from the show with her hair care line, maybe become a spokesmodel for other hair care lines, figure out, maybe develop some sort of clothing line. I mean, I'm not sure exactly where her interests lie, but she needs to do something other than being on this show. Kenya has been one of those women who has craved love, and love has constantly evaded her. In spite of being a beautiful and attractive woman, for whatever reason, she just hasn't been able to have a fully formed adult relationship with a man that we've been able to see during her tenure on the show. So now that she not only has a relationship, she has a marriage. And this is something that everyone on the show has sort of been poking fun at her for the last couple of years, saying, oh, Kenya's making up a man. Kenya has a secret man. And for the most part over the past several years, she's done a great job at seeming unbothered by that. But when you watch this show, you realize that the messages that she's been hearing have really gotten to her. And that's why she's so emotional about this marriage. That's why she's so protective and so insular in terms of how she's trying to introduce it into the public eye. But I for one, say, whose business is it? If this is your personal life, and yes, this is a reality TV show, I do get that. And so if you're going to be on reality TV, you have to be open and allow your entire life to be susceptible to the exposure of the cameras. But if this is your marriage and you're choosing to protect it, at this point, just walk away. The money isn't worth it. If it's really love that you want, and because the reality is we've seen so many relationships fail because of reality television. And if it's a new marriage, I feel like new marriages are already very delicate, very fragile. And so you don't want the fragility of your relationship tested by reality television cameras, because people are going to instantly pick it apart in the smallest, most minute detail. They're going to magnify it to the nth degree. Oh, did you see the way he just kissed her in the cheek? Oh, did you see the way he doesn't hold the door for her? Oh, they're going to take something very small and innocuous, something very benign, and turn it into World War III. So I think that, and just like the messages that she's been hearing from these women over the past couple of years have sort of bled into her subconscious, that in turn will ultimately have a detrimental effect over your relationship long term. It's like a little drip of water constantly eroding your relationship. Every time you hear someone say something negative, oh, he's not attractive, oh, he doesn't have enough money, oh, he's not tall enough, oh, he's not black enough, oh, people are going to pick the relationship apart. And so before you allow your relationship to be picked apart, just take it out of the capacity, remove the capacity for it to be picked apart by just walking away gracefully. Because last night on the show, Kenya was so unlikable to me. And like I said, she's one of the people that I have actually championed for, because a lot of people didn't like her or still don't like her. But the way she treated Cynthia last night, I'm sorry, if I was Cynthia, like that to me was a deleted from my contacts moment. If you treat me the way she treated Cynthia last night. So let me tell you guys exactly what happened. So everyone, including Portia, Cynthia, and well, I shouldn't say everyone, but Portia, Cynthia, and Kenya decided to do reliefs for the Hurricane Harvey down in Houston. And each girl had their own separate event. Kenya did Habitat for Humanity. Cynthia and her sister Mal, they did they did a sort of a benefit concert. And Portia did more like a sort of a giveaway where she was feeding people and giving away gift cards. So everyone did something to give back, which I thought was really cool. So Cynthia's thing was really lighthearted. Portia's event was really lighthearted for the most part, except when they ran out of food. She had a little bit of a conniption at that point. But aside from that, it flowed pretty well. So when it comes to Kenya, who Cynthia wasn't even anticipating being in Houston for the relief, she shows up. Cynthia ditches Portia and goes with Kenya to the Habitat for Humanity. And Kenya is just like a taskmaster. Like, she is just like a drill sergeant at this point. And so at one point, Shamia, who would actually come to help Portia sent Kenya and sent Shamia, as sort of an ambassador, if you will, on her behalf to work with Kenya over at Habitat for Humanity. So Shamia is en route to the house that they're working on, and she's calling Kenya for directions. And Kenya is so curt and succinct and just rude, like, we'll find it. Ask someone where we are. And she's just being completely I don't want to necessarily say she was berating her, but just being very snide and very condescending in her tone and in her delivery. Ultimately, Shamia was able to find her way to the home in spite of Kenya's lack of instruction. However, when she gets there, Kenya is just ice cold. Cynthia at one point offered some water. She's like, no, we'll do it later. It's just, I don't know. Like, it seems like she's a lot more conscious of the cameras than she used to be prior to being married. Now, I don't know if during pillow talk or, post-coital conversations when the king and her manners are there and they're having conversations and he's maybe seen old shows and he's critiquing her and telling her how he wants her to appear and things that he doesn't want to see, and she's sort of taking note of that, because it seems now like she's taken on this sort of very conventional idealist, I wouldn't even call it idealistic, this sort of conventional and provincial idea of what a wife should be. And in her mind, that is being dutiful and being obedient to your husband and not necessarily having your identity, which to me goes against the Kenya brand, because kind of one of the things that most of us like about Kenya is that she seems to be a free thinker. She seems to think and do as she pleases. And now that she's in this marriage, you can definitely see that this man has some sort of hold on her that is controlling or guiding the way that she behaves in front of the cameras. And I think she even makes mention of that during the episode last night. But last night, I feel like she lost a fan of me in particular, just because, Cynthia is like a fawn. She's like a little deer. She's so sweet, so kind. And at one point, when Kenya was being berated by the girls, Cynthia, being a loyal friend, got up and walked away from the table and like, I'm not going to sit here and do this. Now, when she was sitting at the table at the restaurant during the last scene of this past episode, Kenya gets up and storms off and goes into the bathroom, and we hear her talking to producers and having, a breakdown, a tantrum, if you will, a micro tantrum, where she's complaining about why her husband doesn't want to appear, and she doesn't give a damn about any of the bitches at that table. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, well, Cynthia's out there, Cynthia and her sister, and Cynthia rides hard for you. And so for you to be that dismissive to her as a friend, I really don't think that you deserve her as friends. And at that point in time, I realized that Kenya is that girl. And when I say that girl, I mean that girl. Now, if you have girlfriends and sometimes even guy friends, you know that some people get in relationships and they're shapeshifters. You know, when they don't have a man or a woman, you know, they want to do everything. Let's go here, let's hang. And then suddenly, after they get someone, they forget that you exist. They don't call, they barely text. You know, it's just like, oh, okay, well, I was a seat filler essentially, and now that you have someone and you don't need that seat to be filled anymore, then suddenly you have absolutely no loyalty, no obligation to interact with me in a way that we used to. And so for me, and I think that that's a very valuable lesson because most relationships, let's be honest, I don't give a damn if it's a marriage, I don't give a damn if it's a boyfriend girlfriend situation. Most relationships don't work. Now your friendships for the most part will sustain you when your relationships fail you. What you don't do is forsake your girlfriends for a man. And I'm not talking about every girlfriend. I'm talking about your good girlfriends, the ones that you confide in, the ones that tell you their secrets and you know their secrets, and you guys have a bond that should be unbreakable. And as a friend, when your man or when your girlfriend gets into a relationship or whomever gets into a relationship, then you as a friend, you understand and you give them that space. I give it like 3 to 6 months. Everyone has to have that honeymoon period where they just can't get enough when they're in a new relationship. So you give them the space to acclimate to the new relationship, and hopefully at some point they'll reintegrate you back into their lives. But if we reach the 6 month point and you haven't called me, haven't reached out to me, and you just don't seem to value my friendship anymore, at that point, then your friendship becomes less valuable to me as well. But I just think that Kenya's behavior last night was disgusting. She at one point ran out the restaurant. She hops in the car. Cynthia is trying to talk to her and ask her if she's okay, and she rolled the window up on her and pulled off. All I can say is it couldn't have been me. You know what I mean? Because I might have tried to put my fist through the window just because I felt that disrespected by the action. That is not how you treat your friends, especially a friend who's been as loyal to you as Cynthia has been to Kenya. Anyhow, you guys, I don't want to talk your ear off. I've gone on for almost 17 minutes. So now it's your time. I want to hear what you guys have to say. Tell me what you think about how Kenya treated Cynthia last night. And I really loved how Portia handled everyone to me at the table last night. Handled Kenya exactly the way that she needed. They were confrontational with her, but they weren't rude. They weren't crass. They weren't abrasive. People were just telling her. They were basically holding up a mirror to Kenya to show her behavior. So anyhow, you guys, once again, make sure you comment because I want to hear what you have to say about last night's episode. And that concludes this episode. So remember to like, comment, subscribe, and please share if you feel so inclined. Remember to follow me across all social media platforms: Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, and Twitter. Also remember, it is better to be pissed off than it is to be pissed on. And it's always, in closing, people, remember to live better, love harder, and think smarter. It is me, the Cerebral Diva. I will talk to you guys again soon. Have a great day, and as always, thank you for listening.